Hello, my name is Juan Perez, or Juan Daniel Perez, and I am the Adaptive Tech Guy. As you can see from my t-shirt, I have ADHD, and this is my first of hopefully many videos that will talk about adaptive technology, study methodologies, developing plans for individuals with different types of disabilities or abilities of absorbing information. And this is just the first of many where I will hopefully be showing you things on adaptive technology as the channel suggests. But today I'm doing my first video on something I call test memorization association. Many individuals in a collegiate environment is allowed to eat food, or people who go to college during exams are allowed to eat food, and as a result of this ability to eat snacks, it's beneficial. And I discovered this in 2003 with Rice Krispie Treats caramel popcorn. And what it was is, every time I studied math, I either ate a Rice Krispies treat or poppycock or Cracker Jacks. And when I took the test one day, I decided to eat that, and believe it or not, as I was consuming my snack, I was able to memorize or remember everything that was necessary for the exam. This was quadratic formulas. So even though I had very large difficulty level with quadratic formulas, because I also have dyscalculia, I figured out that by eating the same food that I study the material with, when I consume it during an exam, it helps me recall a lot better than it would normally. And it isn't just limited to foodstuffs. It's also clothing, it's also rings, necklaces, music. Our minds pretty much can, if we train it during the way we study and try to mimic that same thing during the exams, we would take all the stress that we feel goes away, and we have an easier time remembering. So here's something. So let's say you were taking an exam, but while you study, you eat Reese's Pieces. So every time you eat a Reese's Pieces, you will remember that subject, because as you study it, the Reese's Pieces, the flavor, the taste, the texture will help you recall that information better. And as I said before, it's not just limited to foods. It's also beverages. On an exam I took in 2005, I believe, in World Politics, every time I studied the textbook, reading in the library, I would drink cherry Pepsi. So one day I took a pop quiz drinking cherry Pepsi, and wouldn't you know it, the whole chapter just popped in my head as if I was sitting there reading it right away. And I looked into this and studied it online and found out that this not only works for individuals with disabilities, but it also works for individuals that are non-disabled, and it's something widely used. A clear-cut example is a lucky pair of socks. If you're an athlete in football, let's say you have a lucky pair of socks. Every time you wear the socks, your performance in the game is exceptional. And that is similar to the same thing when it comes to the foodstuffs and the testing methodologies. By consuming the food while you're taking the exam, you can memorize it, but like I said, in an athlete sense, it was socks. And it could be a ring, it could be a necklace, anything. And for students in high school, eating a snack during an exam isn't really a choice. They're not allowed to have any kind of anything. However, there's things called lifesavers, Altoids, peppermints, and this taste association is a study methodology that does work. Doesn't work for everybody, but it does work, and I've used it. And it's worked well for me. I've used it in psychology when I was studying the different types of disorders. I would consume tropical Skittles. when I was studying regular psychology, and I had to memorize the different aspects of the human brain, what the corpus callosum is, what the left hemisphere does, what the right hemisphere does. I was able to recall that information by eating a bag of regular Skittles, because every time I read my textbook, I ate regular Skittles. And when it came to memorizing the different levels of the DSM-4, which is the Diagnostic Statistic Manuals, when you have to remember all the different fields of it, what falls under Class A, B, or C, I would eat berry Skittles. So I use these Skittles, and when I consume them during exam, they help me recall the information, and it worked exceptionally well. And if you have a learning disability, if you don't have a learning disability, if you just need assistance in getting into something, consuming a snack or engaging in some sort of ritualistic behavior as you study helps you memorize the information as well as recall the information when you re-engage. It could be something like wearing a watch. Normally I check the time on my phone. However, if I study while wearing a wrist strap, a particular subject, I might be able to recall that subject matter a lot better than I normally would without it. And then what I'm doing is I'm training my brain. It's similar to the concept of muscle memory. Muscle memory is not a real thing. However, your brain does create an automatic reflex in the brain on an unconscious level. So when you're put under specific conditions, your body reacts in that same way as you would, and it is a reflex reaction, and you do it at an unconscious level, and that's muscle memory. Your muscles don't remember it, your body doesn't remember it, your brain created a way of doing things on an unconscious level, and when you get into it, it's just an automatic reflex. Just like a football player, when they get right on the field, they automatically know exactly how to throw the ball, what their job is, and everything from practice. Wearing their lucky jockstrap, wearing their lucky socks, engaging in whatever ritualistic behavior that they engage in. And this is something that's professionally done. And I'm bringing it to you under the concept of snack foods. In a college environment, you could drink coffee, soda, candy, chew gum, and while you consume these, while studying, when you consume them while taking the exam, you recall the information a lot better. And that's how I've been able to get over my memory issue. Even though I have an exceptional memory, because of my distraction from my ADHD, I may not be able to recall the information when I want to. So it's similar to a computer that's being overly used. You double click the icon and it takes the software 3 times longer to pop up because it's doing a million other things. At the same time, you click the icon and start the program. My brain works in the same way. I say, I need to remember this right now, and I might not remember it until 2-3 days later, or an hour later, or 40 minutes later, or half an hour later, or when the exam, until the exam is over. And that is a challenge. But to get over this challenge, I learned by consuming specific foods when I study, wearing specific clothing when I study, doing specific rituals when I study. When it comes time for the exam, if I am allowed to consume the food or allowed to do whatever I need to do, I can recall the information, especially when I use my accommodations of a testing room. One of my accommodations is a distraction-free environment. So inside of a testing room, I'm allowed to eat, drink, foods, and engage in that ritualistic style. And it helps me recall the information just by consuming foods. And it also helps me by being in a room alone. I can talk to myself loud, but that's a whole different story. So this is one of my first videos, and I've just given you a taste of what's to come. This is a study method for taking exams and studying. Eating foods, wearing a special ring, wearing a necklace that you play with, wearing fingerless gloves, wearing a watch that you normally wouldn't because you use your cell phone like most people, or just consuming Reese's Pieces when you're studying one subject, or Kit Kats for another, or Skittles for another, and it all helps you recall it. You could use coffee, clothing, like I said, and even music. Sometimes people study with music on, and listening to this music while you're preparing for the exam also helps you relieve the stress. And that is the second aspect of this. While you're eating the food, or playing with your watch, or playing with your ring, or playing with your necklace, it helps you relax while you take the exam. And that again helps you in the long run. So if you're a person such as I with a learning disability that has difficulty recalling the information when they need to, at the most critical moments, you can train your brain by using foods, clothings, and other types of ritualistic behaviors. As I said, this is my first video. I know I'm dressed down a little bit as a result of it, but I wanted to share with everybody that I do have ADHD, and I do have a large breadth of knowledge. And in the finale of this video, let me give you my credentials. I've worked in the Office of Specialized Services as a volunteer since 2005. Then I worked as the adaptive technology guy on a voluntary basis from 2009 to 2011. Then in 2011 I was given the job as a contract employee of that office. I took for students with various types of learning disabilities: deaf, blind, paralyzed, perception disabilities, contextual disabilities, and everything. And as my videos go on, I'm going to be sharing my experiences of my own experience with my disability, learning difference, learning challenge, or however you wish to label it. I call it learning difference, to the others. My next video will be on study methodologies. So I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry for the stuttering. This is my first video of many on my new YouTube channel. I'm doing this as a result of all the years of experience that I've had, and I have nowhere to share it or no one to share it with, so why not just make a channel? Thank you, and hope you enjoyed the video.